Like I said, they had just gotten done with work, so it was late afternoon, about 4 or 5 o'clock, and as they're driving along on this, it's a relatively busy road, but Wisconsin busy. So it's and it wasn't in the city. It was just outside of the city. So it wasn't fantastically busy or anything. But they're driving along and they see this strange animal that at first I'll just tell you what it was doing and then we can get into maybe what they thought it could have been. And so they see this strange animal and it's up on its hind legs. And it's got its forelegs on a tree some ways off of the road. And so the first thing that pops into their mind is, hey, maybe this is a bear, who knows? But they pretty quickly dismiss that idea because this thing gets back down onto all fours and it starts walking towards their car. At this point, they had passed it and decided to loop around. So they passed it while it was standing by the tree. And after a minute, we're like, well, we got to go back and see if this thing is still there. It probably won't be, but we got to go back. They go back. It is still there. They see it on all fours. It starts walking towards their vehicle because they've decided to stop and park, which I applaud their bravery, frankly. Yeah. And so they describe this thing as being huge, had to be, over 5 feet at the shoulder, a few hundred pounds, a sort of like tan or light brown color with a triangular head, huge shoulders, kind of a sloped back, and like a long cat-like tail. And so now, originally, when I heard this, and I'm speaking to this lady, and I had to ask her, I was like, well, could it have been a mountain lion? Now, I know that by the description it sounds too big for a mountain lion, but I have to ask because they do range that far south. It's not unheard of. And so, and she said immediately, no, I had considered that, but I really don't think it was. And here's why. She has a hard time sort of explaining what this thing was because she said the longer she tried to look at it, the more difficult it was to make out any details. So the longer she looked at it, the harder it was to see it. And that's not something I've ever heard of before. Usually, by the time they really kind of came to their senses, got a little scared, and decided to leave, it was probably only 35 feet away from their car. So it's not like it was real far away. And so what usually happens is, a witness will see something, and it's either really far away, or, like it's dark, they don't get a good look at it, they don't get to see it for very long, or something, and then their mind fills in a bunch of details. And maybe that's why they don't have a really good description of it. But I had never heard of somebody looking at something that seems to somehow create the effect of you not being able to understand it. So again, like as she described it, she's staring at this thing, and the longer she looked at it, the less she was able to sort of understand it. So if it was any kind of normal animal, even an out-of-place animal that you weren't necessarily expecting, like a mountain lion or something, it wouldn't cause that kind of effect. You would look at it for a second, you would go, oh, that's weird, and then you'd be like, oh, hey, wow, that's a mountain lion. But yeah, you wouldn't have that sort of mind fog, that deliberate confusion sort of projected onto you that she described. And like I said, her husband was with her too, and pretty unusually, he had decided that it had to have been a large dog, and the way that she talked about how he treated it was that all he wanted to do was just kind of sweep it under the rug. He decided it was a thing that it couldn't possibly have been, but that was the end of it, and he didn't want to talk about it ever again. He just didn't want to talk about it anymore. So yeah, that's pretty unique, and it was definitely unusual. I don't know what to make of it. I like I said, I've never really heard of something that had that specific effect. Certainly not, an anomalous big cat. Like people see out of place large cats, and that's sort of a known phenomenon. But yeah, I had never heard of one that got harder to see the longer that you looked at it. So pretty weird.
And they were brave to hang around and even be inquisitive, to go back. But, again,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, but maybe it's a shapeshifter. I mean, again, I don't know if there's any creatures that can shapeshift, or, again, I'm going to use the magic word, aliens that come in and shapeshift or whatever. They can read your thoughts, and I don't know. It's so interesting. It's so many things out there, Tobias, that we don't know yet, and we're still finding out little things on a regular basis. And I will say this, that one, the people who believe the world is flat, that there's no proof that the world is turning. Evidently, they've never been on a airliner, or in my military days, I've been in a couple jets up pretty high, and you could see the curvature of the Earth. So if Earth was flat, you wouldn't see a curvature of the Earth. And I just, some of the things that people believe in that, it kind of astounds me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong. I feel the exact same way. I mean, and it's so difficult because superficially, yeah, I believe in some weird stuff, and, like, it gets some eye rolls sometimes, but, I can back up some of the things that I believe in with, at the very least, my own experiences and the experiences of other people. And yeah, I know that they're not necessarily proven to, like, materialist scientific satisfaction. And I get that. And if people want to write it off because of that, and because they've never experienced it, hey, I get it. That's totally fine. But it's super obvious that the Earth is not flat, and anybody can see it almost any time they want if you can afford a few $100s for a plane ticket. So,
well,
I don't get that one either.
I got on a debate here about a person that wants to be on the show, and they want to convince everybody, hey, the Earth is flat. Well, I said, well, if the Earth is flat, then what happens with the ocean? Why don't it just run off? And I asked this a couple basic questions, and he had no answer. It's just, come on. I guess people just need to believe in whatever they want to believe in, and that's fine. Let them believe the world is flat. Bigfoot, I don't know what a Bigfoot is. I just only can say what I seen. Was it a Bigfoot? Was it some other type of creature? Was it a mountain man that was extremely hairy and smelled really bad and weighed 800 pounds? I don't know that either. But, till somebody actually brings the bones of a Bigfoot and proves that there's one existence. I mean, there's been scat found, there's been, hair found that's been analyzed, and it says, oh, it's part bear, part something else. Or they can't, distinguish actually what it is. I don't know. But it's a lot of strange things. I don't know if it's paranormal things out there when people, like one of the guys that belongs to the UFOI team, the photographer, he was out in a mountain, old, logging road that hasn't been used in years, and it was starting to grow over. And he was way out in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden, these rocks started flying across the, in front of him. And then the rocks got bigger, and then they got bigger. And that's when he realized he's going to turn around. Now, I don't know what could have been doing that. I know a coyote or a mountain lion isn't going to do it, and certainly a rabbit isn't going to do that.
Right.
But it makes you just wonder. There's things out there. There's things out here we just simply don't have answers for yet.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Obviously people have a tendency to associate, like the rock throwing and stuff like that. That's commonly associated with Bigfoot and stuff. But I mean, you make a great point. We don't know what Bigfoot is. We don't really know what people are seeing. We don't even know that Bigfoot is a biological entity until there's a body in front of us that we can study.
Yeah. Well,
so, yeah, it's a weird world.
Well, again, like I said earlier, I believe we've been visited for many, many years on this planet by different alien species, because there's so many things it has happened that we can't account for. And I do think the Earth has been rebooted once or twice. I don't think we're the first people to walk this Earth, or humanoids. But again, how do we know that when people see a Bigfoot, they're not seeing a shapeshifter, or maybe seeing an alien that is disguising themselves as a Bigfoot to scare you off? Maybe there's an alien craft there. A good place, like this one guy said, for, UFOs to hide is in the National Forest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are all reasonable speculations. I think, given the circumstances, we don't know that any of those things aren't true. There are some researchers that I really respect, like some of the guys I grew up reading that helped inspire me to want to look more into the things that were happening in my own life, like John Keel and Jacques Vallée that I had mentioned earlier. Who speculated pretty early on that, maybe a lot of it is projections. Maybe a lot of it is smoke and mirrors from some, truly alien intelligence that, that is manipulating us, and maybe it has been manipulating us for, thousands and thousands of years, like as long as we've had recorded history, or even longer. Who knows? So, yeah, it's all possible right now.
Oh yeah. Hey, Tobias, we're out of time here almost. You want to go ahead and we need you to plug what you need to plug, your website and anything else you want to,
Sure. If you want to hear more about my work and what me and my wife and, all of our awesome Fortean friends and colleagues do, you want to go to the Singular Fortean Society, and our website URL is just singularfortean.com. We do have appearances coming up in 2019. I don't have all the events in front of me, but look for us at Paracon in the Northwoods coming up in May, and Haunted America for sure in June, and we have some other stuff up in the air. So just look for that on social media and on our website, and we will definitely let everybody know where and when to see us when it comes up this year.
Okay, sir. Well, hey, Tobias, I want to thank you for coming on the show again, and maybe here in a couple months I can get you back on again.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, Gary. Happy to do it.
Okay, sir. You have a great weekend, will you?
All right. You too. Take care.
I'm going to work on it. Believe me. Take care.
All right.
Aliens, Bigfoot, Mothman, all those things. They at one point in time, somebody saw something. And you know how stories start spreading and things embellish themselves over the years and decades and centuries. Do Bigfoot exist? I certainly feel there's something out there that is not, like us. And little people, again, I don't know. They could actually be, again, alien species that just because we're 5 foot to 6 foot tall doesn't mean that somebody coming from a different world is going to be 5 or 6 foot tall. does it? I mean, they could be 2 feet tall. They could be 10 feet tall, 20 feet